Go ahead and open up Premiere Pro. When it starts up, you're going to see the home screen or the start screen, and this might look a little different depending on the version you have. So to get started, let's go to New Project. Then you'll have the New Project window that comes up. We can go ahead and name our project. Then we will save where we want the project to be. So for me, this folder is fine. I have created a Premiere Pro mini course folder, so it's always good to place your projects within a folder for organization. I'll talk a bit more about that later on. Underneath that, within the General tab, you'll see an option here. And based on the graphics card you have on your computer, you might only have this option, which is software. But if you have a good enough graphics card, you can select this, and I would recommend it. This is the CUDA version. On Mac, you might have something called Metal, and either one is great. We'll click OK. Now Premiere Pro is started up. Yours might look a little different than mine because I've customized some of the windows. So if you want to customize your windows, when you click on any of the panels, you'll notice that they highlight in a color. So that means that you're working within that specific panel. So on this one, we're in the program monitor. If I clicked here, we're in the project. If I click here, we're in the sequences timeline area, the effect controls, and so on. If you hover the mouse in between the panels, you'll see it changes, and that means you can move it around, make it larger, reveal more things within specific panels. And that works the same for every single one. And you can also do it going this way if you'd like to do that. Next, if you go up to a specific panel and click and hold on the name and drag it, you can actually move it to different spots inside Premiere Pro to customize the way the panels look. Just to give you an example, we can move it to this side. So now the program monitor is over here. I prefer this setup. It's more of a classic Premiere Pro setup from years ago, and I've just gotten used to it, and I would recommend setting it up more similar to this, where you have your wide sequence timeline at the very bottom, and we'll talk more about what that is in a minute. And if you don't have specific windows, you can go up to Window and then enable which ones you want. And on every panel, you'll see 3 lines. So if you click that, you'll get additional options where you can close, for example, or undock it. And undocking means you're putting it into its own panel. So for me right now, I'm not going to have Lumetri Color open. I'm not going to have the Essential Graphics. And we'll keep it on Effect Controls and move that over. And the last thing I'm going to do for the setup is going to go up here where it says Effects, and I'm actually going to bring that so it's within its own panel. So this is the setup I like: Project, Effects, Program, Effects Controls with tabs of Audio Mixer in the source, and then the entire timeline at the bottom. And then we have our audio meters and then all our tools. Okay, so moving right along, before we start importing footage and editing, I want to talk about organization for a second. So in the description of this video, I've left a lot of links where you can download the footage that I'm actually going to be working with in this project. And you'll also find the link for the music track I'm going to be using. So I'd recommend following along and downloading all of those files. So I've created a folder called Premiere Pro Mini Course. Now for you, you can name it whatever you'd like. So I have put all of the footage into a footage folder and the music in the music folder. And you can see here that the project we created in Premiere Pro was saved into this folder as well. So I would recommend keeping everything well organized, as it will help you as you become a better editor. Since I've already done that, let's go back into Premiere Pro. Inside the project window, this is where you're going to be importing everything. There's a few ways to import. You can right-click, import, you can go up to File, or you can simply just double-click. However, I find the easiest way is to simply grab the folders and then Command-Tab on the Mac or Control-Tab on the PC over to Premiere, and then simply drag. Doing it this way, with the folders selected, will import everything in the exact same way. Okay, so now we have all of the footage, and now we have the music track as well. I'd always recommend having a game plan going into your editing project before you start your editing. So the music track I chose is an upbeat, more fun type of song. It's great for summer style footage or action sports and that sort of thing. And the footage is very similar. So if we double click, you'll see here in the source monitor that the footage opened up, and we can actually scrub through and see what this clip consists of. So it's all kind of adventure type of footage. Knowing that this is the type of footage we're going to be working with, it made sense to have more of a fun, upbeat song. So now that we have a theme and style for this edit, we then need a place to be able to put all the footage and start editing. In order to create a sequence, we need to know the type of sequence we want to make. So we can find that out by going down into the footage. And you can see here that the frame rates are 23.976, 25, 29, there's 30, so it's all different kinds. And since these are just a bunch of random clips, they do have different frame rates. So I tend to like to shoot in 23.976 or 24 frames a second. So we're going to create a sequence at that frame rate. And for the resolution, if we keep scrolling over here, this is 4K. We have 1080, which is HD, and this is 720p, so it's a little under full HD. So since the lowest resolution we have to work with is 720p, that's what we're going to create a sequence with. So let's go to File, New, and Sequence. If this is the first time you're opening Premiere Pro, you're not going to have a custom area for presets. I've already created that ahead of time, so you can just go into the digital SLR or any other one that has a 720p option. And here's 720p at 23.976. So that's the frame rate and that's the resolution. So let's click that. Let's go into settings and everything else looks good. So we can name the sequence. We'll call it Summer Fun Edit and click OK. Then a sequence was created. Down here, you can see that there's V1 to V3 and A1 to A3. Those represent the video tracks and the audio tracks. So when we drag footage down here, if it has audio, the audio will go down here and the video tracks will go here. All right, so let's start bringing down footage into our sequence. Let's go up into the footage folder. And what I'm going to do is click on the top one. I'm going to hold Shift and click on the bottom one so that all of them are selected. And then I'm going to click and hold and drag all of the footage right into our sequence. Now, if we scroll through this, you can see that we have all of the footage here. So right off the bat, when you click on a clip, let's say this one, for example, you can see that the audio is attached to it. And in some cases, you don't want that to happen. So what you need to do is either press Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC and click, and then you'll select just one of the files. And then with that selected, if you click near the top and drag it, you can move it independently. I'm going to go to Edit, Undo, and put that back. And in this case, we don't need any of the audio from the footage since we're going to be putting a music track. So in the same way that I just taught you, we're going to hold Option or Alt on the PC, and we're going to click and drag somewhere that's not on a clip down in the audio section, and we're going to highlight all of just the audio. From there, we're going to press Delete on our keyboard, and that will wipe all of the audio from all of the footage. Next, we'll go back up into our project window, into Music, and we'll click and drag our music right where our audio from our footage used to be. And then we'll place our cursor right at the beginning, and then we'll come up here to our program monitor, and we will make it larger. We'll hit play up here.
Audio Jungle.
Okay, and that will go through and play the whole thing if we'd like. We can skip to this area and hit play here. And you can see that a bunch of clips were stitched together in each piece of footage that we're using in our sequence here. And as I progress through this edit, I'm definitely going to be removing some of the clips, and I'll teach you that in just a few seconds. Before we get to that, if you look over here, you'll see that at the top of our audio meters, it shows 2 red dots now, and if we click, those go away. So if we play again,
Audio Jungle.
You can see that when the loud music came in, the red dots showed up again. So that's called peaking, and that's something you want to avoid all the time in your edits. So the best way to get around that is to either select your audio, right click, go to audio gain, and then just reduce the audio a little bit. So minus 3 decibels. We'll see if that solved it.
Audio Jungle.
Okay, so got to do a little more. We'll do again another 3. So it goes to minus 6.
Audio Jungle.
And you can see that that was no longer peaking. There's no longer red. So that's a good level for now. Now, really quickly, I just want to show you another way of bringing footage into the timeline. If you want to do it very specifically and not just select all the footage and bring it down, you can go into a specific clip, let's say this roller coaster clip, and you can go to the source window and you can move through the clip. And let's say you wanted to use just that. So you can press mark in, and then you can move to the end of that clip and then hit mark out. And then if we go up here and click and drag into our sequence, then we will have just that clip. So I'm going to delete that. If we wanted to bring just the video, we'd click this symbol and just audio would be down there. So that's another way you can bring footage in a more specific way. All right, so moving right along, down here in our sequence, if we go to where the V1 is, that's our video layer 1. If we go just to the top, we can click and drag and make it larger. This will reveal thumbnails of the footage we have in our sequence. And you can see that for the audio it's similar. If we drag those down, you can see the waveform. And at any time we can zoom in and out by pressing the plus and minus on our keyboard. So if we zoom in, you can see that by scaling this, it also makes the waveforms bigger on our audio channels. Let's zoom back out a bit. So in Premiere Pro and in most editing programs, there's going to be a bunch of layers. And let's say if we take this clip and move it above, you're then going to see this clip instead of the clip below. Now, if we turned off this entire layer by clicking this button here, you'll see this clip below. And if we turn it back on, then it goes back to this clip. So whatever footage is on the top is what's going to be shown. All right, so let's drag this clip back. And you can see it kind of snaps. That's because the snap tool is on over here. If you click that off, then it won't snap in place. So let's turn that back on so it snaps in place. And then we'll bring it back down and we will zoom out a little bit. All right, let's grab this sunset clip here and drag it to the end. And we'll zoom in to this area and scrub through it to show you what it is. Now in this piece of footage that we downloaded, there's two clips stitched together. And you can actually see if we hit the arrow keys, we can go frame by frame. There's actually a fade between them. So I'm going to leave the cursor right there and I'm going to go near the end and you'll see the symbol change on my mouse. And then I'm going to click and drag so it trims the clip right to there. As you can see, we just have that clip. If I go to Edit, Undo, let's say we just wanted to split these two clips up and still keep the second half. So in that case, we can use the razor tool and click right there. We can also click kind of anywhere we want and it'll make splits in the clip. So I'm going to undo a few times. And then let's go to the spot we'd like to cut, which is just before the fade. And then just after the fade. And we'll cut there as well. Then let's go back to our regular tool. We will select the part we do not want. And we can either delete it by pressing delete on our keyboard or right-clicking and going to cut. Now we have this clip at the end and this second clip. So that's the basics of moving clips and trimming them. All right, so let's go down here and go right back to the start. We'll zoom out a bit, and then we'll bring those two clips back into our spot. Now a quick note, if you find the playback is choppy while you're watching the footage, you can change the resolution playback to either half or a quarter, or potentially even more depending on the footage you're working with and your system. So for me, I'll just keep it at full. All right, next we're going to go through all of our footage and pick selects of the best clips that we'd like to use in this edit. So since this song is 2 minutes long, we can't use all of the footage. So we're going to need to cut out at least half of the footage we have to work with, and most likely a lot more if we want to do a fine cut edit. And fine cutting and edit just means you're using the best of the best, and then the edit will be a lot more interesting. So I like to edit in a non-destructive way, which means I don't like to delete clips from my sequence. I'd rather just separate them for organization and in case I need to grab clips later on. So let's mute the audio. We'll zoom in and we'll start going through and picking selects and I'll show you what I mean. So with the audio muted, we're not going to hear any of that when we play. The idea here is we're going to play through, watch, and with our razor tool, make cuts and pick out certain clips that we'd like to use. So let's go to the beginning here and we'll scrub through. Maybe we'll cut there. We'll cut there. So we'll go back up to our regular selection tool and drag that up. And maybe we'll just use the end here as well. All right, so from this piece of footage, we've selected 2 clips within it. And then moving on, we have some clips of somebody walking. And then we'll go right to that spot. Make a trim there, and I like that whole section. We'll take this end piece as well. And keep in mind, I've been editing for many years, so I'm going to be able to choose which clips I like best a lot faster than someone who's just starting out. And we're just going to go through all of the footage and pick all the best takes. And to edit a little quicker, you can go between the main tool and the cut tool by pressing V or C. So I'm going to press C, trim there, back to V, C, and then back to V. Great, so we'll put that up, that, and we might use that as well. Now it looks like this clip is zoomed in a little bit, and that's because it's probably a 4K clip, and we haven't talked about that yet. So when you click on a clip, if you go to the effect controls up here, all of these options will show up. If we click and drag on the scale here, you can see that there's a lot more to work with. At 32, there's still black bars. 33, you can see a little bit of black bars as well. So at 34, there are no black areas around the frame, and that completely fills it. So that's the size for this specific clip within this sequence. This one is 4K. If we go to right click and properties, you'll see that it is a 4K clip because it's 3840 by 2160. Now, as you're scrubbing through, you might notice that the clip or playback is lagging a little bit, and that's because it is quite a large clip. 4K is a very big resolution compared to 720p, and that means that it might cause some playback issues. So in this case, we'll go to half, and that helped out. So this clip looks good as is at 100%, but this is a 4K clip as well, I believe. So if we drag it, you can see there's a lot more. So 34% again is correct for this clip. Now I'm going to undo that. And there's another way to scale to frame quickly by right-clicking and choosing scale to frame size. And by default, your Premiere might actually do that, but it's just good to understand that you are able to scale it manually yourself or do it this way. However, when you do that, it sort of tricks you because it scales it, but keeps it at 100%. Whereas if you don't scale to frame and fill the frame, it's actually 34%. So if we're doing more intermediate or advanced editing, it's always best to not do the scale to frame size and instead scale it down yourself. However, it's probably not going to make a difference for you if you're just learning and you'd prefer to just go scale to frame size right off the bat. Okay, so I like all of these clips at the end, and they're all individual clips, so I'm going to raise them all up. And then if we zoom out, that gives you a very easy way to figure out what clips you like and what clips you do not like. So of the clips I left down below, I'm going to highlight them all, zoom out, and then drag them all over here. And this way I'm not deleting them. I can still go over here and grab them as I need or reference them as needed. Then we'll go back to the beginning of our timeline, and we'll drag that to the beginning and bring these all over. Now, a faster way to do this is you can lock the audio layers and then click on the empty space and either right click and go to ripple delete, or you can click on the empty space and just hit delete on your keyboard. And that just brings them and puts them all together. So as you can see, we've picked our selects, but still it's much longer than the song. So we need to even cut out more. So I'm probably not going to have this entire clip show up in the edit. Instead, we can try speeding up the clip. So let's right click, go to speed duration. Let's set it to like 600%, and that will speed it up to 6 times the speed. And then this will play much faster. Let's try it a little faster at 1000%. And at the end, you could see it goes down slightly. So just before that, I'm going to trim it. Same with these clips. They're time lapses, but let's make them a little faster. So speed duration, we'll go to 300%. 300%. And then it happens much faster. And now that we have our selects chosen, we're going to continue doing similar things to what we just did by speeding up clips or trimming them and rearranging them to start compiling our edit together. All right, so now if we move all these clips closer, now you can see that it is shorter than our song. All right, so now what we're going to do is start organizing some clips and seeing how they fit together. So those are time lapses. That's another sort of sunset time lapse. This is a person swimming, so that might go good after the jump clip, which is here. So I'm going to select all of those and then drag them over a bit. And then bring this clip to there so that the jump clip, and then it's the person swimming. Relaxing is probably better at the end near these clips. And then this is another nature clip, so we'll leave that up there for now. Okay, we can move that closer. This is very orange, just like this clip, so that'll probably be good just before it. So relaxing, relaxing. So now we have some clips of relaxing. That's also relaxing. Those are action shots, action, action, action. Those are action. These are more like lifestyle shots. So action. And I think you're starting to get the idea here that we're just kind of organizing the footage so that it, even without even listening to the music, just what footage goes best where. Now that we have a better idea of the clips we're going to be using in this edit, we're going to scan through again and see which clip we can pick to start the video and potentially even end the video. All right, so I think we'll move those two clips. I'll put that one before. And if we right-click the end and go to Apply Default Transitions, it'll add, if we zoom in, a fade to the very end. It's called a cross dissolve. And if we click and drag, you can see it adds a fade to the end. So that might be a good ending. So we'll leave that for now. And because this clip, and this clip are more of the end of the day, it might look nice if we have those three together. Instead of having this one at the end, actually, let's move that back here. And we'll end with this one. And we'll bring the crossfade out. Okay, so let's unlock our audio tracks and then unmute. And then let's listen and see how this sounds with the buildup of the song and the first clip we chose. We'll also add a fade just at the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this stuff here so that the song starts right away. Okay, so there's, I think, too much of the same thing here. So let's cut that. Move that closer here. Show the sunset. And then you can see right on the beat here, this is where the song picks up. So we'll move the cursor right there. So it would be great if this time lapse matched perfectly from this start point right to here. But it's very hard to get that right by just putting in a specific percentage. So the way to get around that is by going over here where it says Ripple Edit, clicking and holding, and then going to the rate stretch tool. This way, when you click and drag, you'll see that it sped it up by 458.11%, and it's perfectly right on the beat. So let's go back to V, our main tool. Okay, so that will work well when we start piecing together all of the rest of this footage. And you can see when you make selects how quickly an edit starts to form without you even editing to music initially. Okay, so let's have a watch. So the timing needs to be a lot faster with the cuts and the edits. So let's just go right through the beginning here. So that would be the end of that beat. And if we were to listen to it, you can hear the kick drum. So it goes now, 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 now. And that's kind of the tempo of the song. And it's always good to cut on those beats. And moving right along. This is where the song really picks up. So that would be good to show, I think, the roller coaster stuff where they drop. And we can test that by moving it closer. So right here is where it drops. So I think this footage doesn't need to be there. And let's take them waiting at the top and move that just before. And then have them scream in there. So it's like this. And there's just a little bit that we need to cut off there. And to make this seem like it's dropping faster, we'll speed that up. Let's go to 200%. Okay, so that's starting to take shape here. And then we can move this stuff just before. Now, really quickly, if you had some audio from footage that you wanted to use, such as someone talking, it might be too loud for the music to be at this volume. And in that case, you would go down here. And then where this line is, that you can control the actual volume of the clip. So if you bring it to like -10 and -10, it'll be a lot quieter. So I'm going to undo both of those. You can do it to specific spots if you'd like. So if you hold Control on the PC or Command on the Mac and click, and then if you set 3 of them, the middle one can be brought down. Or you could create another one. And then if you did that on both tracks, then this is what would happen. And then at this point, you could hear the person speaking. Okay, so for this edit, we don't need to do that, but that is a handy trick if you want to have someone's voice be able to be heard over the music. All right, so let's put this back at the beginning. And you can see it's about a minute long or so, and let's see how it looks. So right away, I think that happens a little too quick. So we'll take all of those and move it over just a bit. And then we'll use the rate stretch tool again and just open it up a bit. Now let's just cut to the beat a little more. So for this one, it'd be really great if on the beat they gave each other the high five. So let's try to line that up. So maybe we can use that first. So you can see it should work really well if we can time it. So almost. Great, so that works out. Move some of these over. So this clip doesn't really fit into this, I think, so I'm going to remove that. And this is where the song changes, so it'd be really great to have this right there when that changes. And to have it already starting to fade out. Now as you see what happened there, because the fade happens and there's a clip below it, it starts to reveal this clip. So in order for that not to happen, we need to do that. Then we'll trim the music track to the end of the edit and add a transition to fade out the music. And there is essentially a rough cut of our edit. So for example, on this clip, we could do a slow zoom in. So let's scale in. And then at the very beginning, the first frame of that clip, while it's selected, in the effect controls, let's go to scale and enter a keyframe there. And then we'll go to the very end and go one frame back so we can see the last frame. And then we're going to zoom in slightly to 110. So that creates a keyframe at the beginning at 100 and a keyframe at the end at 110. And then throughout it, it'll animate. So let's go to the beginning and last frame. So in this case, it doesn't make sense to zoom this way. It should be zooming into the focus. So we'll go to the beginning, hit the position keyframe, go down, then left to go to the last frame, and then we will adjust it just so the black bars don't show up. Therefore, at the beginning, it'll zoom in closer to the person doing the yoga pose. Now in this case, we've split both clips, so if we wanted to zoom in, we could of course zoom from there to there, but we wouldn't be able to do here to here at the same speed. So to get around that and to make it a constant zoom throughout the whole thing, you can select both of those, then right click, go to nest them, and that makes them into one clip. Essentially, it's just turning them into its own sequence. And then now it'll act as one clip. So then we can scale, go to the end, go to 110, and then it'll add just a little bit of a zoom throughout the whole thing, and it'll create a little more high end of an edit. I think for these clips, it would look great as well if we zoomed in. We'll do it by the same amount, up to 83. Okay, so that's too fast, so we'll try 70. 73, and then 73 for this one. And same with this. And then we'll keep the trend going and zoom in on this one as well, but maybe not as much. And for this one, the same thing. Now you might have to remove the crossfade to actually see how much you're zooming in. And for this one, we'll go back to the beginning and we'll zoom in up to the sun. So we'll set the position at the beginning and then set one at the end. Then we will add the crossfade again, so it fades out. Now up here we have effects. And if you don't have that, again, you can click window and then go to effects. And if we type in crop, we have the transform crop effect. And I'll show you how that works. So if let's say we wanted this clip to appear above and have this clip appear below, we can achieve that by using the crop effect. So on the top layer, I'm going to drag the crop effect onto it. And then with this layer selected, the top layer, we're going to go to the bottom and we're going to crop it. And you'll see what's happening. So we're cropping the top layer's bottom part off, so it reveals the bottom layer. Now this doesn't look that great, so I'm not going to do that, but I just wanted to show you quickly how to crop clips, and that can create some cool effects with certain footage. I'm just going to undo all that. So next we can add a title. It's very simple. You just go to the type tool over here, and then anywhere in your program monitor, you just click, and then you can just start typing. And then essentially, if you click on a blank area, go back to your main tool, go into your sequence area and zoom in, you'll see the title that was created. And then I've just stretched it so it shows up the entire time of the layer below it. And then if you want, you can change the font to whatever you'd like. You can go down here to the fill as well, and you can change the color. You can increase the size. You can make it bold, and there are a few other options as well. All right, so now that we have a title created, we have our edit assembled, the next thing to do would be to go through and do some color correcting. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, and I'm not going to do every single clip, but I'll teach you enough so that you get the idea. So this clip has a little more orange in it, and this clip seems to be a little more blue. So the idea would be to try to match those together. Window, Lumetri color. And this is where you can do some color correcting. So with this clip selected, we can change the temperature to make it a little more orange. We can change some exposure settings, drop the highlights a bit, bring up the shadows, add some more contrast. And there's many more advanced options here like curves and whatnot, but as a beginner, I would just recommend staying within the basic tab. And then the idea is to just try to match the clips as best as you can. What some people like to do as well is up in the project window, if you right click, then go to new item, you can choose an adjustment layer, click OK, and then you can bring that down and then just zoom in and make the adjustment layer last the entire length of your edit. The idea is you can just color correct this one adjustment layer and it'll affect all of the footage below it. So essentially an adjustment layer is just a blank transparent layer that you can add effects to. So if we, for example, made it more orange, made our edit more contrasty, saturated it more, the color correction we just did on the adjustment layer will then be applied to every clip in the edit. This way it'll help blend the clips a little better because they have similar color correction. So at the beginning of this course, we talked about the peaking of the audio meter here. So we adjusted the gain. We went to audio gain and reduced it to -6. Now, if you had a lot of audio files on many different layers, it might not make sense to do that. So if you do have a lot of audio files, the best way to do that is to go up to your audio track mixer, and you can find that by going to Window, Audio Track Mixer, and then choose the sequence you have. And then you'll see in your audio track mixer that you have audio 1, 2, and 3, which represents 1, 2, and 3. And then you also have a master. And the master represents a sum, a stereo sum of all of your audio tracks. So what I typically do is set this to about -2 is safe, but if you do find your audio peaking, you can just reduce that a little more. Okay, so now that our edit is complete, we've done a lot of work to it. We have music, we have a bunch of selected clips put together in a specific order. We have a fade at the beginning, a fade at the end. We have an adjustment layer that is correcting the entire clips. We have a title. So we've done a lot of work. So now to finalize it, we need to export the video. So in order to do that, you bring the timeline cursor to the beginning of your edit. Then you hit I on your keyboard. That will create the export range in point. Then you go to the very end, and I like to use the up arrows on the keyboard, and then you hit O, and that will select your entire sequence, and that's the portion that will be exported. In order to export, you go to File, Export, Media. So from here, this is where you export your videos. I would recommend choosing H.264, and that will give you the output as .mp4. So this is the most widely accepted, and this will be great for YouTube or any other websites. Make sure you have video and audio selected. Match source, which is high bitrate, that's great. And you don't really need to worry about all this stuff since you are matching the source settings of your sequence. And then the last thing you need to do before exporting your file is giving it an output name. So I will leave this one as called Summer Fun Edit. I've selected our folder for where I want to export. I'll hit save, and then I will simply hit export. It's going to render the audio files and then start exporting the edit. Okay, so it has exported. Depending on your computer, it might take longer or slower to export. So in our folder here, we can see that this is the summer edit, and we can open it up. All right, so that is how you edit a video inside Premiere Pro. Now, I have just scratched the surface. There are so many other features in Premiere Pro, but this should get you started and help you out a lot if you've never edited in Premiere Pro or if you've never edited in general before. So I hope that helps. All right, so that's it for this video. You're now able to edit inside Premiere Pro CC. Now, I do have a full in-depth 3-hour-long training course, and I will leave a link in the description if you're interested. It'll be a coupon where you can get 90% off, so check that out if you'd like. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're into cinematography, editing, or watching travel vlogs, how-tos, or reviews, we release new YouTube videos weekly, so subscribe for more videos from us in the future, and we will see you next time.
It's so cool. Holy. Okay. How did I get so far? This is like 40 minutes from where we live.